The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. Robert Kiyosaki. What does it really mean to have money work for you? Most of us spend our lives working for money, trading hours for paychecks, trying to keep up with bills, debt, and the rising cost of living. We follow the path laid out for us: school, good grades, a steady job. But somehow, financial freedom remains distant, almost impossible. Why? Because we've been taught to think about money the wrong way. Rich Dad. Poor Dad challenges everything you think you know about wealth. It's the story of two fathers, one with traditional wisdom, the other with a radically different approach to money. One stayed trapped in a cycle of working hard but never getting ahead. The other learned how to make money work for him, building real freedom. This book is not a quick fix or a get-rich-overnight scheme. It's a mindset shift, one that has changed the lives of millions. If you feel stuck or overwhelmed by money, this could be the beginning of your breakthrough. Welcome to Book Play, where we turn powerful books into powerful life changes. If this message speaks to you, please like and subscribe so you never miss the lessons that can transform your mindset. Let's dive into the story of someone just like you and the lessons that changed his life. Daniel is 28 years old. Like many people his age, he stands at a crossroads, hopeful about the future but uncertain about how to shape it. By most measures, Daniel's life seems stable. He's been working steadily for 3 years as an operations coordinator at a mid-sized company. His job involves managing projects and solving problems as they come. But it doesn't inspire him. It pays the bills, but leaves little room for passion or growth. He rents a modest apartment in the city, a place that feels like home. His social circle is small but supportive. He has a few close friends who share his values and offer encouragement. Growing up, Daniel absorbed the advice many of us hear: work hard, get a good education, avoid debt, save money, and live within your means. He has followed this advice carefully. He budgets every month, watches his spending, and tries to save what he can. Yet, despite these efforts, Daniel cannot shake a growing sense of unease. When his paycheck arrives, he immediately plans his expenses: rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, and the occasional night out. He puts away whatever is left in savings, but more often than not, there's barely anything to save. He wonders quietly, is this all there is? The path Daniel walks feels safe, but it doesn't feel free. It feels like exchanging his time and energy for money, day in and day out, without a clear end or breakthrough. His mind keeps returning to a simple but urgent question: am I really building the life I want? Daniel looks around at his friends. Some are launching side businesses, investing in the stock market, or buying property. These choices spark a mixture of excitement and fear in him. How do they know where to start? What if I fail? Is it too late for me? These doubts weigh heavily on his heart. He worries he's caught in a cycle that won't break unless he changes course. He recalls the advice of his parents and teachers: get a good education, find a steady job, save diligently. But deep down, Daniel suspects there's something missing. There's a secret no one taught him, a mindset shift that could open the door to true financial freedom. Many nights find Daniel scrolling through countless articles and videos about money and investing. But the flood of information only adds to his confusion. Contradictory advice and complex jargon leave him hesitant and unsure. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, Daniel sits at his desk staring at a pile of unopened mail and bills. The weight of uncertainty presses down. He feels trapped and overwhelmed. Then, his eyes land on a book resting on his shelf, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, by Robert Kiyosaki. It was a gift from a friend who had said it changed their view on money. Daniel picks it up, holding it in his hands. Mixed feelings swirl inside him: skepticism, curiosity, and a faint glimmer of hope. He opens the book and begins to read. From the very first pages, the story of two fathers, one representing traditional financial thinking focused on job security and saving, the other teaching a radically different mindset about money, strikes a deep chord. Daniel reads about how the rich don't simply work for money, but make money work for them. He learns about financial education, understanding assets versus liabilities, and taking calculated risks to build wealth. For the first time in years, a flicker of clarity breaks through the fog in his mind. This book isn't just about making or saving money. It's about changing the way he thinks about money itself. It offers a new lens, a fresh perspective that could transform his life. A quiet optimism begins to grow. Could this be the turning point he's been searching for? Daniel settles back into his chair, fully engaged, eager to absorb the lessons and challenge his old beliefs. For the first time in a long while, Daniel feels a steady, grounded hope, not the fleeting kind that disappears by morning, but a real sense that change is possible. He knows the journey ahead won't be easy. It will demand patience, learning, and courage. But Daniel is ready. With Rich Dad, Poor Dad in hand and a mind open to new ideas, he takes his first step toward a future where financial freedom isn't just a dream, it's a plan. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki is more than just a personal finance book. It's a powerful call to rethink everything you thought you knew about money, work, and wealth. Since it was first published, it has inspired millions of people around the world to change their mindset and take control of their financial lives. At the heart of the book is a simple but profound story. Kiyosaki grew up with two father figures, each representing very different approaches to money. His biological father, whom he calls the Poor Dad, was a highly educated man with a stable job in education. He believed in working hard, earning a steady paycheck, saving diligently, and avoiding financial risk. His advice reflected traditional wisdom, emphasizing security and caution. On the other side was the Rich Dad, his best friend's father, a self-made businessman, an investor who taught Kiyosaki a very different lesson. This Rich Dad believed in financial education, entrepreneurship, and making money work for you rather than working for money. Through this contrast, Kiyosaki reveals how much of our understanding about money is shaped by the environment we grow up in, and how those beliefs can either limit or expand our financial opportunities. One of the central themes of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is the difference between working for money and having money work for you. Most people are taught to focus on earning a salary, saving what they can, and climbing the corporate ladder. But the truly wealthy build and acquire assets, things that generate income independently. Assets could be real estate, stocks, businesses, or intellectual property. These assets bring in cash flow even when the owner is not actively working. Kiyosaki makes an important distinction between assets and liabilities, a concept that many people misunderstand. He explains that many think owning a home or car automatically counts as an asset. However, if these things require ongoing expenses like mortgage payments, maintenance, or insurance, and do not generate income, they are actually liabilities. They take money out of your pocket rather than putting money in. Another critical message is the value of financial education. Kiyosaki argues that traditional schooling prepares people to be employees, but doesn't teach how to build wealth. He highlights the importance of learning about money, investing, risk, and entrepreneurship early on to avoid being trapped in what he calls the rat race, a cycle of working for someone else's income without true financial independence. The book's style is straightforward and engaging. Kiyosaki uses relatable stories, real-life examples, and simple language to explain concepts that might otherwise feel overwhelming or complex. This accessibility makes it a great starting point for anyone feeling stuck or confused about their financial future. For Daniel, and for many viewers like you, Rich Dad, Poor Dad offers more than financial advice. It provides a roadmap to changing how you think about money and your relationship to work. It challenges readers to question deeply held beliefs and to open themselves to new possibilities. As we move into the key lessons from the book, we'll follow Daniel's transformation. From feeling stuck and uncertain, he begins to embrace a new mindset, one of empowerment, hope, and possibility. Prepare yourself for insights that have helped millions rethink their financial futures, and that could help you create a life where your money works for you, not the other way around. Lesson number 1: the importance of financial education. Daniel always believed that if he worked hard and saved money, things would work out. That was the advice he'd always heard, from his parents, his teachers, even the people at work. Get a good job, live within your means, and put something away for the future. But despite following that advice, Daniel still felt stuck. His bank balance never seemed to grow, his savings barely moved, and no matter how carefully he budgeted, there never seemed to be enough left over. Then, as he began reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a single line made him stop and read it twice. It's not how much money you make. It's how much money you keep, how hard it works for you, and how many generations you keep it for. That one idea hit him harder than he expected. He had been focused on earning. But now, for the first time, he realized he didn't actually understand money. No one had ever taught him what to do with it once he earned it. He had a job, yes, but no real financial education. And that's when it clicked. This wasn't just his problem, it was a much bigger one. Most people are trained to earn money, not to understand how to grow it, manage it, or protect it. Schools don't teach how taxes work. They don't explain debt, investing, or income streams. Daniel started to see that financial education is a skill, just like reading, writing, or learning a new language. And without that skill, it doesn't matter how hard you work, you stay stuck. Suddenly, the problem wasn't about not making enough. It was about not knowing what to do with what he had. And that realization gave him something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Daniel grabbed a notebook. He started taking notes from the book. He wrote down terms he didn't understand, like assets, liabilities, cash flow. He wasn't sure what they all meant yet, but he was finally asking the right questions. And that mattered more than having the right answers. This lesson, that money is something you must learn to understand, opened a door in his thinking. It made him feel like he had some control again, like he could take action, not by working longer hours, but by thinking in a smarter way. And for the first time, Daniel saw a different kind of future, not just one where he earns money, but one where he knows how to make it work for him. If you're listening and this sounds familiar, if you've ever felt lost with money, even though you work hard, start small. Begin your financial education today. Read a book, watch a trusted video, learn one thing a day. It doesn't take a finance degree to change your life. It just takes awareness and action. Because the truth is this: understanding money is more important than how much you earn. And now that Daniel understands that, his next question is simple but powerful. If learning is the key, what should I learn first? That's when he turns the page and finds one of the most important ideas in the book. A lesson that explains why some people get ahead, while others fall behind, even if they earn the same amount. It all comes down to one simple distinction: the difference between assets and liabilities. Lesson number 2. Assets versus liabilities. Know the difference. As Daniel keeps reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a new idea begins to take shape, something that sounds simple on the surface, but changes the way he sees his entire financial life. It starts with a single line: rich people acquire assets. The poor and middle class acquire liabilities, but they think they're assets. He reads it again. Up to this point, Daniel had always assumed he was doing okay financially. He had a car, a nice apartment with new furniture, and the latest phone. He had no big debts and even a small savings account. But now this lesson is asking him to look at everything in his life differently, not just by what it costs, but by what it does for him. he starts to ask a new question. Does this thing put money into my pocket or take money out? Suddenly the definitions become clear. An asset is something that helps you grow your money. A liability is something that drains it. And once he understands that, Daniel begins seeing the difference everywhere. That new phone with the monthly payment? Liability. The car loan that takes up a big part of his paycheck? Liability. His savings account that barely earns any interest? Not really an asset either. But a small rental property that earns income each month? That's an asset. A business that grows without needing his constant time? Asset. Investments that slowly increase in value? Assets. For the first time, Daniel understands why his paycheck feels like it disappears so quickly. He's been buying things that look good, but don't work for him financially. And the more of those things he owns, the harder it becomes to get ahead. This realization is hard to accept, but also freeing. It shows him exactly what needs to change. He doesn't need to earn double. He doesn't need to wait 10 years. He just needs to stop spending money on things that take from him and start putting that money toward things that give back. This shift makes his next choices clearer. He cancels a few subscriptions he doesn't use. He starts looking at his car payment differently. He even begins reading more about what kinds of small assets someone like him, with limited savings, can begin to build. He's no longer asking, "Can I afford this?" Now he's asking, "Will this help me grow?" If you're watching this and feeling the same way, here's a simple idea to take with you. Every dollar you spend is a decision. It's either building your future or holding it back. Start small. Make a list of what you own. Ask yourself, does this bring money in or take money out? You don't have to get it perfect. You just have to get clear. And as Daniel gets clear, something else happens. He begins to realize he's been working for money, but never asking, can money work for me? This question leads to the next big lesson in the book, one that changes not just how he thinks about income, but how he thinks about freedom itself. Lesson number 3, the power of making money work for you. Daniel had always believed there was only one way to earn a living: go to work, put in the hours, and collect a paycheck at the end of the month. That's what he saw growing up. That's what everyone around him did. And it's what he'd done for the past several years. But as he moves deeper into Rich Dad, Poor Dad, another sentence stops him in his tracks. The rich don't work for money. They make money work for them. At first it sounds strange, almost backwards. Isn't working hard the key to success? But the more Daniel reflects on this, the more it begins to make sense. He realizes that if he stops working tomorrow, his income stops too. His entire lifestyle depends on him showing up day after day. If he gets sick or burned out or laid off, everything stops. That's when he truly understands what passive income means. It's not just a financial term, it's freedom. It's the ability to earn money even when you're not physically working, through investments, rental income, businesses, or royalties. It's building something once that keeps giving back over time. Daniel begins to see that this is the path wealthy people take, not because they're lucky, but because they think differently about time and money. They don't just trade hours for income. They build systems that allow income to keep flowing, even when they're not there. For Daniel, this changes everything. He no longer sees work as the final goal. It's a stepping stone, a tool, a way to fund his freedom, not just maintain survival. Instead of asking, how can I earn more this month? He starts asking, how can I build something that earns while I sleep? This idea gives him energy. He starts exploring small ways to create passive income. He watches videos about investing. He studies simple business models. He even considers writing a short digital product based on a skill he already has. He doesn't need to be rich yet. He just needs to start thinking like someone who wants to become free, not just busy. If you're listening, here's a question to ask yourself. the same one Daniel asked. If you stopped working today, how long could you keep living the way you do now? If the answer makes you uncomfortable, don't panic. Just let it guide your next step. Even one small stream of passive income can change your future. It could be from a rental room, a digital product, a side business, or an investment that grows over time. The important part is this: start seeing your time as valuable, and start building income that doesn't always need your time to grow. Because true freedom comes when your money starts working harder than you do. And as Daniel embraces this idea, he starts thinking differently about fear. He's excited about change, but still nervous. What if he takes a step and fails? What if he makes the wrong move? That's when the next lesson arrives. Not from a spreadsheet, but from his own doubts. To grow, he must learn to face his fears and take smart risks. Lesson number 4: overcoming fear and embracing risk. By this point in the book, Daniel's mindset has changed. He's no longer just thinking about earning more money. He's thinking about how to grow it, how to build passive income, how to make it work for him. But even as the ideas inspire him, fear starts to creep in. What if I make the wrong decision? What if I invest and lose everything? What if I'm just not ready? That's when he reads something in Rich Dad, Poor Dad that speaks directly to this feeling. The primary difference between a rich person and a poor person is that a rich person has a plan for their money and a poor person does not. Person is how they manage fear. This line doesn't just make him pause, it makes him feel seen. Daniel realizes that fear isn't something only he feels. Everyone feels fear when stepping into the unknown, but what separates those who grow from those who stay stuck is how they respond to that fear. Rich Dad in the book teaches that fear, especially the fear of losing money, is the number one thing holding people back. It's not a lack of intelligence. It's not a lack of opportunity. It's the fear of risk, of looking foolish, of failing, of being uncomfortable. And suddenly Daniel sees what's been happening all along. Every time he hesitated to invest, every time he talked himself out of starting a side hustle, every time he told himself, now's not the right time. It wasn't logic, it was fear, quiet, persistent, familiar. But now he has a choice: stay safe or grow. The book doesn't suggest being reckless. It encourages learning, preparing, and then taking smart, educated risks. Because financial growth doesn't happen inside your comfort zone. It begins the moment you decide to try something new, even if it's just a small step. Daniel reflects on this deeply. He doesn't need to leap into something risky tomorrow, but he does need to stop letting fear make all his decisions. So he creates a simple goal: take one small, uncomfortable step each week. That could mean reaching out to someone who knows about investing. It could mean setting aside money to start a small project. Or it could mean doing research on something he's been curious about, but too nervous to act on. Each small step doesn't remove fear completely, but it does something better. It gives him courage, and that courage begins to build momentum. If you're listening and fear has been holding you back, just know this: fear is normal. It's human. But don't let it decide your future. Instead, start small, learn, prepare, and then take one step forward. Even if you're nervous, because every smart risk you take teaches you something. And over time, those small lessons create real growth. Daniel is starting to feel it now. Not just hope, but movement. And the more he learns, the more he realizes something surprising. Making money is only part of the equation. To truly grow your wealth, you also have to learn how to keep it. And that's the next lesson that catches his attention. A truth many people ignore until it's too late. Lesson number 5, the entrepreneurial mindset. Daniel had always seen himself as a hard worker, responsible, reliable, disciplined. He showed up on time, did his job well, and followed the rules. That's what he was taught to do. And for a long time, It felt like the right path. But as he continued reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he came across an idea that challenged the very foundation of how he saw his career and his future. The moment you make passive income and portfolio income a part of your life will change. Those words will become flesh. What really stood out to Daniel wasn't just the mention of income. It was the mindset behind it. He realized something crucial. He had always thought like an employee. His job was his only source of security. His income depended on someone else deciding how much his time was worth, and no matter how hard he worked, he was still building someone else's dream. That realization hit hard. Daniel began to understand the difference between earning a paycheck and creating value. People with an entrepreneurial mindset don't just wait for opportunities, they look for problems to solve. They ask questions like, what can I build? What can I offer? How can I create something that grows beyond my time? This shift didn't mean Daniel needed to quit his job immediately, but it did mean something had to change inside him. The way he saw work, money, and most importantly, his potential. He started exploring small ways to think like an entrepreneur. Not by starting a massive business, but by asking, what can I own? It could be a skill he turns into a product, a simple service he offers on weekends, a digital tool he builds once and sells over time. For the first time, Daniel stopped asking how to climb the ladder and started thinking about how to build one. This shift filled him with a new kind of energy. It wasn't about rebellion, it was about responsibility, the kind that comes when you realize your future is yours to create. And something else became clear. Having an entrepreneurial mindset isn't just about starting a business, it's about seeing yourself as the greatest asset. When you think like an employee, you trade time for money. When you think like an entrepreneur, you trade ideas for value, and value can grow. If you're listening and wondering how to make this shift, here's something simple to try. Start asking yourself what you can create, not just what you can earn. Look for a problem you care about. Learn a skill that has real-world value, and think long-term, not just about income, but about ownership. Because ownership is where freedom begins. Daniel wasn't sure where this path would take him, but he finally believed one thing. He didn't want to spend the next 30 years working to build someone else's dream. He wanted to build something of his own, even if it started small. And with that decision, a new kind of clarity appeared. If he was going to grow wealth, he needed to think bigger, but also think longer. He needed to look beyond monthly paychecks and start seeing the bigger picture, how his choices today could shape his future 10, 20, even 30 years from now. And that brings him to one final lesson, one that isn't about money itself, but about time. Lesson number 6, the power of investing early and consistently. By now, Daniel's view of money has completely changed. He no longer believes that hard work alone will secure his future. He understands the difference between assets and liabilities. He's begun to take small risks, explore passive income, and even think like an entrepreneur. But there's still a missing piece, one that becomes clear as he turns the final chapters of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The single most powerful asset we all have is our mind. If it is trained well, it can create enormous wealth, and alongside that, truth is another one that Robert Kiyosaki repeats throughout the book, quietly but powerfully. Start investing early. Be consistent. Let time do the heavy lifting. Daniel had always thought of investing as something you do when you already have money, something for people in suits, something complicated. But now he realizes it's not about being rich. It's about starting early, starting small, and staying consistent. He learns about the power of compound growth, how money, when invested wisely, doesn't just grow, it multiplies over time. And the earlier you begin, the more time you give your investments to work for you. Daniel begins to see that every month he waits is a month lost, not just in money, but in opportunity. He doesn't need to make big bets or chase risky trends. He needs to build the habit, the mindset, of planting seeds today for a better tomorrow. So he sets a simple goal: invest a small amount each month, no matter what, even if it's just a tiny piece of his paycheck, even if he doesn't fully understand every investment yet. Because what matters most now is momentum and trust in the long-term process. Daniel also realizes that investing isn't just about stocks or real estate. It's also about investing in himself, in his education, in building skills, in creating something meaningful. Every book he reads, every course he takes, every smart decision he makes, it's all part of that investment mindset. If you're listening to this and wondering when to start, the answer is simple. Now, not next year. Not when you have more money. Not when things feel perfect. Start where you are. Start small. But most importantly, start now. Because time is your greatest financial ally. And the earlier you begin, the more powerful your future becomes. Daniel feels this truth deeply now. He doesn't just understand money better, he respects it. He knows how to make it grow, and more importantly, he knows how to think beyond the present moment. He's not just working for today's paycheck, he's building a future he'll be proud of, one smart decision at a time. Daniel is no longer the same person who first opened Rich Dad, Poor Dad just weeks ago. When he began, he felt stuck in a cycle that many of us know all too well. Working hard, saving cautiously, but wondering if this was all life had to offer. The safety of a steady paycheck felt less like security and more like a trap, trading precious hours for money with no clear end in sight. He had followed the advice he'd been given his whole life. Get a good education, find a stable job, save diligently. But deep down, Daniel sensed there was something missing, something that no one had taught him. That something was financial education. The first lesson Daniel learned was clear and powerful. It's not about how much you earn, but what you do with what you earn that truly matters. This shift in understanding lit a small spark inside him, a sense of hope and possibility. He began to realize that knowledge about money could change his life. As Daniel continued to learn, he discovered how important it is to know the difference between assets and liabilities. This was more than a technical detail. It changed the way he saw every purchase, every expense. Suddenly, he stopped thinking of money as something to simply be spent or saved. Instead, he started seeing money as a tool, something that could be used to build his future. But the transformation didn't stop there. Daniel came face to face with his fears about money and risk. He understood that financial growth isn't possible without stepping into the unknown. Taking calculated risks, managing fear, and pushing beyond his comfort zone became essential parts of his journey. With a new mindset, Daniel began shifting from seeing himself as an employee who traded time for money to embracing an entrepreneurial spirit. He started to recognize opportunities, small and large, that could create value beyond his paycheck. This mindset shift was liberating. It gave him a sense of control and excitement about his future. And finally, Daniel discovered the power of investing early and consistently. He learned that wealth is built over time, through steady, intentional actions, not overnight success. Every small investment, whether financial or personal, added up. He understood that time was his greatest ally, and that the sooner he started, the more powerful his financial future would become. Through all these lessons, Daniel's fear began to transform into confidence. His uncertainty gave way to clarity. He no longer saw money as something to be feared or avoided, but as something to be understood and mastered. Today, Daniel isn't perfect. He still faces challenges, but now he approaches his life and finances with purpose and vision. He is no longer merely surviving. He is actively building a life he can be proud of. Maybe like Daniel, you have been wrestling with the same questions. Am I truly building the life I want? Am I working towards something meaningful or just getting by? How can I take control of my financial future? The message of Rich Dad. Poor Dad is simple yet profound. Your mindset about money matters more than your current income. By learning, by shifting how you think, and by taking small, consistent steps, you can change your life. And here's the most important part. You don't need to be rich to start, but you do need to start to become rich. In knowledge, in confidence, and in freedom. If Daniel's journey has resonated with you, I invite you now to reflect on your own next step. What is one small action you can take today to improve your understanding of money? Could it be reading a chapter of a book, setting up a budget, or exploring a new investment option? Growth starts with curiosity and courage. The biggest change begins with a single step. If this story and these lessons have inspired you, please like this video and subscribe to Book Play, the channel where we turn powerful books into practical, life-changing lessons. Join a community dedicated to growth, learning, and building a better future every day. Remember, the most valuable investment you can make is in yourself. Your mindset, your knowledge, and your choices shape the life you will live. Thank you for watching. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep moving forward.